Welcome to this week's edition of the Women's Soccer Rams Roundup. We're here with head coach Jessica Clinton. Following a one-on-one weekend, you defeat St. Louis at home. You get a very important 3 points against a very good offensive team, and then not so much against Dayton on the weekend. Talk about how those two games went for you and how you're approaching this week.
Sure. So against St. Louis, we felt like we connected very well. We just played well overall from our back line to our front line. Everything was in sync. I think when we went to Dayton, we all weren't on the same page, and that's part of our preparation with the group. They weren't necessarily prepared, and they necessarily weren't ready to take that next step. But we really clicked against SLU, and we felt like if that's that's our product coming out every day, we feel like we'll have a successful end of the season heading into the A-10 tournament.
This week you've got the last two road matchups against George Washington, right? Again, another team you're fighting for positioning for, and then Richmond on the weekend. What are you expecting out of those two teams against your squad?
So George Washington is very similar style, very similar formation, and so we feel like it will be a very good matchup. And to take points away from George Washington while we're away in their home will be really important. And the same goes for Richmond. They're a very good team, but we're on the road for 2 games, and we're looking to play well and walk away with some points.
Right now, you sit right near that top edge. I know you lose the tiebreaker today on a head-to-head, but how important is it for those games where it's stealing points away from the teams you're fighting with? How important are those type of games?
It's very important because we're looking to get into the A-10 tournament for the first time in many years. So we're really just fighting to stay in and fighting to stay alive. And if we place in the top 4, that's terrific. But losing an edge to VCU right now and to Dayton is tough. So we hope that other teams like St. Bonaventure beating St. Louis are, some points will be taken from the next 4 games.
All right, well, thanks so much, Coach, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with an interview with Rachel Collage. We continue Rams Roundup with our player interview. We're here with sophomore defender Rachel Collage of the women's soccer team. Rachel, it was a good and a bad week for you guys. 1-1, you guys get an all-important win against St. Louis at home, and then the loss at Dayton over the weekend. How are you guys, how have you preparing for those two offensively laid teams where, again, one game you were very good and the other one not so much?
Yeah, I mean, playing at home is definitely always easier than playing on the road. Not that that makes a huge difference, but I think for St. Louis, we really knew what we wanted to do. We came out strong and we were ready. And as far as Dayton, I mean, we know Dayton's always a top competitor in our conference, and that'd be a tough game. But they just came out really fast in those first 10 minutes, and I think that once we settled into the game, we did really well again. But it was just that start that kind of got us.
This year, the team has been among the A-10 leaders defensively. Your core group of defenders, yourself, Nicole Bates, Allie Doyle, and Brianna Blanc. What has that synergy been like from year one for yourself as a freshman last year compared to year 2 as a sophomore?
Well, I mean, Bates and Doyle and Bree, they're all great people to look up to, and they really set a standard for the defense. And last year, the first year, it was definitely a little bit harder to just not only keep up, but we were still figuring things out, how to communicate, who should go where and do what. But I feel like now that this is our second year, we've just been clicking more than ever. And we know, I don't even really have to ask. I know that where someone's going to be and they know where I'm going to be. We know how each other play. And like I said, they're just great players. So it's really reassuring having them behind you because you know they're going to be there.
You guys finish up the road part of your A-10 schedule this week. George Washington first on Wednesday afternoon. First afternoon start in a while, and those midweeks are always a little bit different depending upon where the sun is and stuff like that at George Washington. And then you go down at Richmond. So you're on the road for a couple of days. How is the team approaching that kind of little bit of a longer road trip to get through those 2 games?
Well, we're definitely doing it a little bit differently. We usually practice at the away team's facilities, but Wednesday morning we're going to practice here, then get on the road, try and rest, and be ready already for the game the next day. So we're going to do that, and then we're definitely going to try and take it a little bit easier on Friday, relaxing. We'll still train and everything, but just try and keep everybody's bodies healthy because so many games in such a short time, plus so much traveling, being away from home, it gets really taxing. So we're just going to take it one step at a time.
All right, well, thanks so much, Rachel, and I appreciate the time.
All right, thank you so much.
That'll do it for this week's women's soccer edition of the Rams Roundup. Special thanks to head coach Jessica Clinton and sophomore defender Rachel Collage for joining us. The Rams are in action twice this week, both on the road, as they take on George Washington on Thursday at 3 o'clock, as well as Richmond on Sunday at 1 o'clock. Both those games will be streamed live on the 810 Digital Network. You can also get updates on Fordham Women's Soccer by following them on Twitter at FordhamWSoccer. Again, at Fordham W Soccer on Twitter for live game updates. Thanks again for joining us this week, and we'll see you next week.